Hey friends, Moni here. There's one date you need to pay close attention to, January 13th. What comes out on that day is going to make a lot of people stop and ask a hard question. Why does it feel like our social security checks never keep up anymore? Because once the numbers are out, it becomes very clear that the 2.8% increase many of you received didn't actually protect your buying power at all. Today isn't about panic or politics. It's about understanding the reality behind the numbers. Why I care so much about this. For more than 10 years, I've worked with people living on fixed and low incomes. I've helped parents who suddenly became disabled figure out how to stretch a monthly check. I've worked with veterans trying to understand confusing benefit letters. And I've watched seniors make impossible choices between food, medicine, and utility bills. And every single year, the same thing happens. A COLA gets announced. There's brief relief. Then real-life costs go up, and that relief disappears. That's why this conversation matters. What we're going to break down. What's being released on January 13th and why it matters. The difference between official inflation and real-life inflation. Why Social Security COLA calculations lag behind reality. Practical steps you can take right now. What happens on January 13th? January 13th is when December's Consumer Price Index, CPI report is released. This report completes the inflation picture for all of 2025. It shows how prices actually moved over the entire year. Once we put that data next to the 2.8% COLA, we'll be able to see the gap clearly. Inflation didn't pause in 2025, and early signs show that price pressure is still very real moving into 2026. Who this affects? This impacts a massive group of people. Social Security retirees, SSDI and SSI recipients, survivors receiving benefits, veterans receiving Social Security along with VA benefits. That's tens of millions of Americans living on fixed incomes. While benefit checks went up slightly, everyday expenses didn't slow down. Housing costs increased. Food prices rose. Utilities became more expensive. Medicare premiums moved higher. That math simply doesn't work for people on fixed income. The real issue with the 2.8% increase. On paper, 2.8% doesn't sound terrible. The problem is how it was calculated. That increase was based on inflation data from the middle of the previous year, not what people are paying now. Meanwhile, real-world inflation, what people feel when they shop or pay bills, has been closer to 5% to 8%. So income grows slowly, while expenses move much faster. That difference is where people start falling behind. A simple example. Let's say someone receives about $1,900 per month from Social Security. A 2.8% increase adds roughly $50.55. After Medicare deductions, that turns into around $40. But if monthly costs rise even 5%, that person would need closer to $95 just to break even. That gap shows up in everyday life. Smaller grocery carts, delayed prescriptions, unpaid bills. Why December inflation data matters. The end of the year is often when inflation pressure is strongest. Holiday shopping, travel, and higher demand push prices up. December data tends to reveal the full impact of the year. Yet Social Security COLA calculations rely on a system created decades ago, long before today's cost structure existed. The economy changed. Living costs changed. The formula didn't. About the inflation is temporary message. You may hear officials say inflation is under control. But lived experience tells a different story. Prices at the store haven't gone back down. Rent hasn't dropped. Healthcare costs continue to rise. If you feel like your check doesn't stretch as far as it used to, you're not imagining it. This isn't a budgeting failure. It's a system mismatch. What you can do right now. 1. Track your real expenses. Write down what you actually spend on food, housing, utilities, and medical needs. 2. Check for additional benefits. Visit benefits.gov to see if you qualify for programs like SNAP, Energy Assistance, Medicare Savings Programs, Prescription Assistance. Many people qualify but never apply. 3. Stay informed. When the CPI report comes out on January 13th, compare it to your COLA. Understanding the gap helps you plan and advocate more effectively. Final thoughts. The COLA system wasn't designed for today's economy. A 2.8% increase doesn't protect against modern inflation, and millions of people are feeling that strain. But information gives you leverage. The more you understand how this works, the better prepared you are to navigate it. If this breakdown helped you, consider subscribing. I post regular updates on Social Security, disability, and financial assistance. Drop a comment below. What expense has been hardest for you lately? You're not alone in this. We're figuring it out together. I'll see you in the next video.